Hello and welcome to another episode of Detective Case.
And the Detective Close podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Aaron Shirley.
And I'm Brian Townsend.
Today we have a special guest, former Chief Sean Whent. And it's funny, where you were a chief at, right? Because growing up in the '90s, all you could hear in gangster rap, and when you think about crime, and even like the professional football team out of your area, those were like the bad guys of the league, right? So
Yeah.
I'll let you take it away and kind of introduce yourself, and
Yeah.
people have figured out what town I'm talking about.
Oakland, California. Yeah, there are two short lyrics about Oakland police officers. It actually calls them out in the song, right? So, yeah, it was an interesting place. It was a really good place back in the day to be a street cop. I mean, obviously high crime, and so if you want to put bad guys in jail, it's an exciting place to work. And so I was actually born in Oakland. I grew up in the Bay Area. I didn't grow up in Oakland itself. But it was one of those things where they hired me first. And, actually, I will say I went into Oakland thinking it was probably worse than it actually is. I mean, I grew up in a suburb, was not near the crime rate of Oakland. But when I actually started working there as a cop, it was not as bad as I expected it to be. And of course, there are tons and tons of decent people that live in town. It's only a handful of the bad folks, but obviously they cause a lot of grief. But yeah, it was a great place to be a street cop, and so I was able to work patrol for several years, and then made my way to fugitive task force for a while, and then back to patrol, actually with investigations for a little bit. But then yeah, I didn't start that with the intention of ever becoming the chief. That was never a career goal of mine. It's just sort of a weird how that ultimately ended up happening. But yeah, I ended up doing a little over 3 years there as the chief. And the weird thing, there was an article a couple months ago when they're in the process of looking for a chief now, but an article in the last 25 years, I'm the longest tenured Oakland police chief at 3 years and 3 years and 2 months. That's the longest in the last 25 years. So that says something right there, I guess. But yeah, no, it was a great place to work.
Okay, and you started in patrol.
I did start in patrol. Yeah.
That's like kind of unheard of these days too, right? It's always like, hey, we need to do a nationwide search, right? We need to comb all over to find a great guy.
Well, and when I got the interim position, the chief had left, and they asked me to be the interim chief. And I think at the time they didn't have any intention of hiring me. And I think they thought highly of me, figured I could keep the place running until they hired somebody. But for various reasons, the process took longer than it was supposed to, and I ended up being interim for over a year. And after that first year, the numbers were all pretty good, and we were on a good track. And I think that I kind of got it by default. I mean, it was going to be difficult for them at that point to justify making a change, and so I wound up with the position. But even when they gave me the interim job, I never thought I had a chance of getting the permanent job. It just weird timing and circumstance. It kind of worked out that way.
I have a question about the job, but before we get there, just law enforcement in general. Growing up, when did you determine you wanted to be a police officer?
That's interesting. Well, I guess I made the final determination when I was in college. But as I grew up, the one thing I said consistently, I wanted to be a cop. Then I would change my mind. I want to do this for a while. I'd come back to want to be a cop. And, I would get away I would talk myself out for one reason or another. But I started college as a business major. And I ended up in a business math class one day talking about cost derivatives. And I was ready to jump out a window. And I made the decision that day. I'm like, no, I'm changing my major. I can't do this with my life. I just can't. I want to do something that's meaningful and exciting. And I literally went that day and changed my major and never looked back.
Oh. All right, now we're going to fast forward to being a chief.
Yeah.
In a large police department. How do you balance the rank and file officer with the public, especially in a place like Oakland? I know you've talked about, when in our class, the politics and just the different challenges. How do you balance those two, or is there a balance?
Well, there is a balance, right? I mean, there's work that needs to be done, right? There are bad guys that need to go to jail. I mean, there are absolute predators in the community, and the police have to take those people to jail. But how we go about that as an organization is kind of what I think shifted while I was there, because we got into all the 21st century policing stuff, and so our methods were not the methods of old. I mean, like when I started as a police officer, you were evaluated as a police officer based off the number of people you could take to jail. That's what success looked like. It was all numbers, to the point where I think like 92, we arrested as an agency close to 35,000 people, 35,000 arrests in a year, and in a population of 440,000 or so, right? I mean, that's some people again and again, but that's a lot. But that same year was also the high water mark for murders, 167 murders in 1992. So the year that we had the most arrests, we had the most murders. So apparently most arrests did not lead to less crime. Whereas by the time I became the chief, we were no longer doing hot spot policing. We're doing hot people policing. It's all intelligence driven, right? Identify your core gang members, the people that you know are causing the problems in the community, and focus on those people relentlessly, and leave everybody else alone, right? And so it was a change for the organization because it was not what we had always done. But from the community perspective, like we're not waging war on the community. We're waging war on a handful of criminals. Fine, go make those people's lives miserable, but don't jam up grandma for her expired registration, or her tail light that's out. Like that doesn't advance public safety by pulling over little old ladies because they got a tail light out. It just that's, oh, it's a stat, it's a number, but it doesn't make the community any safer. And so it was a mindset shift that I was trying to do, and it was largely successful.
How do you shift how do you shift that culture then with it? I mean, you got a patrol officer who's used to the metrics, putting people in jail. How do you show him or her the greater picture, that strategic vision?
So some of this is well, it is literally sharing the vision. So it's talking to the cops and say, this is what we're trying to do. But then the way you follow this up is you reward people in the organization that demonstrate the values that you're trying to see. So positions like FTOs, firearms instructor, whatever those things are, or promotions for that matter, promote sergeant, lieutenant, whatever. You promote people that are buying into your vision, and that way, people begin to see, hey, if you want to advance in this organization or get these more preferred assignment type things, this is the game you got to play, right? And so they, whether they had initial buy-in or not, uh, some people do, and other people follow on just because they want to advance their own career. And so, that's what good looks like in this agency. I mean, by all means, people need to go to jail, but just because you arrested, a whole bunch of drunken public people is not as good as one robbery arrest, right? I mean, like there's a qualitative aspect to it. It's not just quantitative.
You mentioned all the different, departments, units, specialties within the department. Did you have a favorite when you growing up through the ranks?
A couple. So I would say I loved being on the fugitive team, right? So there we are just going after people. And so, obviously we get guns and drugs in the process of that, but the goal is the body. Nobody's flushing a body down a toilet, right? So I don't have to worry about, oh my God, they're going to flush it. I don't care. I'm after the body. And those people are bad people. I had a parole agent partner in that assignment, state parole agent, and they had a caseload of parolees at large. And so when these people would start absconding from parole, it's not because they're doing something productive. I mean, it's because they're doing bad things in the community. Go finding those people and tracking those people down, they're all up to no good. And so you're arresting real bad guys day in and day out. Like that makes a difference, right? I mean, and so it was super rewarding to be able to catch some of these really bad people and get them off the street. So that was a great assignment. And then I always liked training, right? In any capacity, right? So whether that was being an FTO or teaching in the academy, I started teaching in the academy. That's a few years on. I became the department's report writing instructor, which is about the least sexy topic you could possibly teach. But it was a lot of fun, right? I mean, and so I really enjoy the whole training environment. It's part of why I do what I do now. So yeah, I mean, it's super rewarding.
How Thinking about your career then, how do you prepare that next generation? You're shifting the culture and kind of putting a different carrot up there. How do you prepare them for that? Is that
Well, I mean, I think some of this is training, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
it's it's the development that we send people to. Some of it is also trying to get people to be more well-rounded. I think police departments have a tendency to sort of pigeonhole people. Somebody's a really good ops person, so that's what they do. They do ops things, and somebody else is good at investigations, and that's what they do. But as you move up to higher ranks, I really want more well-rounded people. Like if I've got 10 captains positions in the organization, I would like to think that I could put any of those 10 captains in any of those 10 captain positions. And so I want people to have a more well-rounded career. And then some of this is just mentoring. I mean, like, taking an interest in people and help try to guide them in the right direction. Encouraging, hey, have you read this book? Have you thought about this? And so a lot of different things, I guess, go into that.
One thing we ask sometimes in our training is sage advice. So if you could go back in a time machine and give yourself some advice, knowing that you were going to be the chief one day.
Wow. um, um, are- that's a good question. I mean, I guess I don't know that the advice I would give me is the advice I would give everybody else
It's
necessarily.
fair.
I've always been that sort of that person that's the by the rules guy. Like I can tell you honestly, in my career, I have never seen an officer use excessive force in person. But I'm not naive enough to think that it doesn't occur. But I think that people didn't do that around me because they knew that I'm the by the book, by the rules guy. And so they didn't feel that that was an environment they could get away with that. So like, but I would give myself then different advice than I would give the average person. I mean, the average person, I would say, like do the right thing, and stay out of trouble, and follow the rules, follow the policy. And me, I'm going to do this stuff anyway. Like, I mean, but I never planned to be the chief, right? I mean, I never thought. And so one thing I guess I would tell me, I'm a detail oriented procedure guy. I'm not the people person. And so I've had to work my whole career on the people aspect of it, right? The relationship building that, but also the networking perspective of it, right? So I become the chief, wasn't planning on becoming the chief. It happened. And I become the chief and I realized I have very little network. I don't know a lot of people in a lot of other agencies, or even in certain community groups and various, like, I don't know enough people. So I spend an inordinate amount of my time as the chief building a network that I did not have growing up because I never prioritized it enough. And so I think I wish I had started that, or like some classes people go to, it's all about the networking. And for me at the time, I thought that was a waste of time, and it's not a waste of time. It is helpful to know people when you need resources or ideas or suggestions, to be able to reach out to folks. And I just undervalued that for a lot of my career.
So we keep pushing. There's this drive to do online training, right?
Mhm.
Check mark in a box. Yes, I did that. Versus like, no, no, no. Those are some of the best moments, right? It's like maybe you don't like the instructor, maybe you don't like the topic, but it's the network and the side conversations that could be so beneficial.
100%. Yeah, I'm not a big proponent of online training. I've just never seen it done well. But the same thing with like online meetings, right? We can do a Zoom meeting. We can talk about what we need to talk about. What we miss is the water cooler conversation, and some of the best conversations, some of the best learning, the best networking comes out of those water cooler conversations, and none of that occurs with an online training. So I don't think it's a effective way to really do training.
Yeah, we're here this week. He's our instructor for the LIDA, FBI LIDA, and I can tell you and I don't know if you're hearing him or not, but in the hallways, those conversations are happening. So we're having good conversation in the classroom, and we're having them in the
Oh, that's
hallways
cool.
as well, which is really neat because, like you said, it's perspective change. It's the networking. It's a powerful part of why training is so important, or another
100%.
reason why it's so important.
No, 100%. I'm glad to hear that's occurring. I believed it was occurring. I do see people out talking on the breaks
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's what you get out of it. I mean, oh, I met that guy in a leader class years ago, and he
Yeah.
worked for that agency, and I know they had that challenge. Let me give him a call, right? And so if we're building that network, we're learning from others' experiences, because the reality is we can swap the patch out from departments. We all face the same challenges. Different scale, maybe in different agencies, whatever, but very, very similar challenges from agency to agency. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. If somebody else has got something that worked well for them, let's take advantage of that.
Yeah. So maybe that's a good segue then. So you go from the longest tenured chief at 3 years, done with police work, or what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
So when I left, I didn't know necessarily that I was done. I I knew I wasn't going to miss Oakland. I knew that that was a given, right? I mean, like, it's just that job's an animal. I mean, it's not a fun job day to day, and which is sad in a way because earlier in my career, I used to look forward to going to work. I didn't look forward to going to work as the chief. It's a very, very difficult job. But because of that, probably I was not super, super anxious to get back into another agency. I did, God, how long? Maybe a year and a half or so after I left. I actually applied for an assistant chief job in an agency. And to me, honestly, that's a little bit more attractive job than the chief's job. I like the day-to-day run of the department. I'm not necessarily the one that likes the public exposure and the city council and the politics. I'm much happier doing the behind the scenes run the day-to-day operations. So, but it was in a place that we would have liked to move to, and I think it would have been a smaller department, about 200 officers. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be pretty good. And I made it to the final two, and I got a phone call that they had selected the other person. And my initial immediate reaction was relief.
Mm.
And I haven't applied for another police job since.
Wow.
Because that says something. It speaks to heart set, right? And I don't believe that you can half-ass your way through leadership. And I don't think that would be fair to whatever that organization would be if my heart really isn't in it. And I happened to stumble into this FBI LEDA thing, and it's been fantastic. I said, I do like the training environment. And so this allows me to be close to cops, to give back to the profession to some degree, and not have to deal with the politicians and the headaches and, the personnel matters and all those type things. So this is sort of the best of both worlds. And plus, on top of that, the schedule's very flexible. I can kind of work as much or as little as I want to. So, um, yeah, I mean, I fell into this not necessarily planning on being an instructor for FBI leader for a long time, but I'm at the 8.5 year mark now, and I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. It really is a great gig. I love it.
So for people that don't know, what is FBI?
So, FBI LEDA, it's a Law Enforcement Executive Development Association. Is initially was the Alumni Association for the graduates of the FBI Leads program. So that's where the affiliation to the FBI comes in. But it's not part of the FBI. We're not on the FBI org chart. FBI Lead is actually a nonprofit. But now largely they do law enforcement leadership training around the country, and actually even some international as well, right? So we've got various levels, supervisor, frontline supervisor, mid-level manager, executive, but they also have some media classes, internal affairs, and a bunch of other different options. But really, it's about the mission statement, right? Advancing the art and science of law enforcement leadership. And so we've got a great instructor cadre, a wide array of backgrounds from around the country, and it's a great program. I'm honored to be associated with it.
That's awesome. So we're in a 1 week class, uh, which is, I know you don't have to do the leader programs in order, but this is generally what most people take first, right? The
Yes.
frontline supervisor class. Uh, can you just briefly explain it for, like, again, for folks
Yeah.
who?
So the three classes, the main classes that we offer are the trilogy classes, right? So there's the first one is the Supervisor Leadership Institute, which is largely geared at frontline supervisors. The second one is the Command Leadership Institute, which is more geared at mid-level managers. And then the executive leadership one is more geared at the strategic leaders at the top of the organization. Now anybody can attend any of them, right? But like what I say for people that are lower ranked attending like the executive is it may give you a better impression or better understanding of why the people at the top of the organization make some of the decisions that they do. I think sometimes we've all been there on the ground level where something comes down from on high in the organization. We're like, what the hell is this? Where did this come from? What are they thinking up there? And really, there isn't, sinister motives in most cases. I mean, there's very rational, reasonable reasons that decisions get made, and leaders, we just fail and we don't necessarily explain it to people. But what I really like about LEAD is we get to a lot of smaller organizations. And so, like if you're like you're working in a major city somewhere in America, generally they've got pretty good training resources. They'll get you to the various schools. But you get down to some of the more smaller police departments, training budgets are small. They don't have a lot of money to be sending people off to expensive schools. And So you wind up with people that have little or no leadership training whatsoever. I had a guy in South Carolina last December. He was a lieutenant. He's been a sergeant and lieutenant for 16 years. He told me it was the first SLI class, first supervisor class he'd ever been sent to at any point in the 16 years. That's setting that person up to fail.
Yeah.
That's not fair to that person. Is not fair to the people that report to that person.
I think it would surprise people how often that happens in our careers.
Oh,
You know,
totally.
like, hey, you're the detective now. Here you go. It's like, or hey, you're the supervisor now. Here you go.
Here you go. Yeah, I mean, in my case, as a brand new sergeant, I rode with a senior sergeant one night. Have at it, right? And then as a new lieutenant watch commander, I didn't even get that. It was just on my own. Okay, figure it out. And somewhere down the line, they sent me to some schools, right? But like, I wasn't prepared the day necessarily prepared the day I stepped in there, and so it's sort of trial by fire. But unfortunately, this is a business where like the stakes are high. I mean, like this is a life and death business. And so if people are making bad decisions, putting people in harm's way, that's a high price to pay for screwing up. And training is never cheap, right? But I kind of feel like it's always one of those things you pay now or pay later. And it's the first thing that gets cut when budgets get tight. But there's a price to be paid for that. And if we want people to be successful, we have to adequately prepare them to go do the job that we're asking them to do.
There's probably some things that like officers aren't thinking about, right? It's like, yes, I want to be promoted. Yes, I'm a good police officer. Yes, I want more money. Let's do this. But it's like, yeah, but you're not thinking about the L word, right? The liability or the procedures or policies, right?
Right.
Because you're an agent of like your city, right?
Right. But also, I don't think necessarily the best police officer is the best supervisor. It's a totally different job, right? I mean, so you might be a great cop, and that the best indicator of future performance is past performance, but that great cop skill doesn't necessarily translate to being a great supervisor. And so occasionally you find somebody that was an awesome cop and they really struggle as a supervisor. It seems like certain athletes don't make good coaches, right? I mean, it comes natural to them; they don't know how to teach it, and they get frustrated with the people that can't do it as well as they can. And so it is a different job. And I think sometimes actually, I think people take promotional exams because they think it's an easier job. They think, oh, if I get to that level, I won't have to direct traffic in the rain anymore or whatever. It's not an easier job. I mean, you mentioned the liability, but just like it is a much more difficult job the higher up you go in a police organization.
We used to call it the hardest half inch. You look at an organizational chart, you're only talking, half inch or an inch on a ruler, right? But it's the hardest half inch you'll ever go in your career
Well, yeah, I
sometimes.
mean,
Most
like
often.
as a working police officer, I didn't have a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Go to work every day, take my calls, go home, come back, do it again tomorrow. It was fun. Job stress starts coming in when you're responsible for people
Yeah.
and projects and things, like I happened to have breakfast one morning at the Major City Chiefs Conference with Bill Bratton when he was in New York the second time. There's about 8 of us there for breakfast, and somebody asked him, like, "How do you deal with having 42,000 employees?" And he goes, "Well, that's 42,000 ways to get fired." Like, well, that's
Wow.
an interesting way to look at that, right? Any one of those 42,000 people can do some crazy thing today that you have to answer for tomorrow. And that's where stress starts coming in, right? I mean, like, oof,
So
goodness.
a chief told me once, he's like, just so you know, most police chiefs only last 5 years,
Yeah.
and there's reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now part of that is most people don't get to that point till they're late in their career anyway, right? I mean, so, but yeah, I mean, like, police chiefs rarely get in trouble for things that police chiefs do. Police chiefs get in trouble for things that 24-year-old cops do at 3 o'clock in the morning while you're home in bed. And you have to own it.
Wow. You talked about in the training, like mentorship and stuff. So as you were progressing in the ranks and you're seeing, like you said, you're just kind of thrown into it. Did that become something that was important to you, or did you encourage that within your leadership ranks?
Yeah, I had a handful of mentors over my career that I think really did make a difference for me. And so I tried to do that for people as well. And I think since I've left, I think like 6 people that were on my command staff have gone on to be chiefs in other agencies, one in agencies considerably even larger than ours. And so I feel good about that, right? I mean, it means we're doing something good internally, that we're developing people that are going on to those bigger and better things. But I don't know that all leaders prioritize that enough. either seeking a mentor or being a mentor, either one, right? But like you don't get there by yourself. And I said earlier, there's no point in reinventing the wheel, right? So I mean, like if you can have people that are willing to share their experience and wisdom with you and help point you in the right direction, then take advantage of that. And similarly, now if you've taken advantage of that, it's your responsibility to now do that for the next generation, right? Because I mean, that's what leaders do. We pass it on to the next generation.
Wow.
I'm thinking about two topics, right?
Yeah.
And you can weigh on this too, right? There's like as Brian and I, travel the country and teach as well. There's like two things that come up. Um, Capability does not equal use,
Okay.
and the second one is perspective. So those are kind of like our big thoughts when we're talking like leadership. So
Well, perspective is so huge, right? I don't know. It, looking at things as a street cop versus looking at things as a executive are totally different things. And I don't believe that I had anywhere near the appreciation when I was a street cop for what the chief does. But even at the lieutenant level. So I remember being a lieutenant, having a chief that I had some disagreements with, and I didn't like the way he said certain things, did certain things. I didn't like some of the decisions that he made. But after having sat in his chair years later, I have a different appreciation for him. I still don't agree with all of it, right? But after hearing some backstory and after having sat there, I get it now. And I think most people don't really understand the perspective of what goes on in that office, and so it becomes very easy to sort of, oh well, they're they're evil or they're incompetent or they're stupid or whatever, and they're just seeing a different picture. They're looking at different things. And I don't think most cops, they're here to take bad guys to jail. And, that's why I came here, right? But, sort of weirdly find yourself moving up the organization, you do start to recognize the value of that larger picture. And it looks different. So, it's very easy to pass judgment on decisions other people make, but you don't know why they made that call. And it's worth giving some consideration to.
Powerful. Powerful for sure. On day one, I'm going to transition if that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
On day one, the morning during introductions, you asked us to not only, identify who we were and what we did, but what's something we're very passionate
Yeah.
about. Excuse me, we're passionate about. So throw that back at you. I know the answer, but
Yeah.
what?
Well, okay, so, the reason that exercise has a couple of reasons
Yeah.
for it. One, it gets people talking, right? I mean, so I want people to participate throughout the week, so it's an icebreaker thing to get people talking, right? But beyond that, I think it's important because cops in particular, like Kevin Gamartin says, we get over invested in this identity as being a law enforcement officer, and it become all consuming in life. I've known people that have retired and do not know what to do with themselves, or they won't retire. They stick around long past their best years because don't they need a purpose in life, right? And it's sad, right? I mean, even some people that at one time were great cops and great leaders in the organization, they've outlived their usefulness to a certain degree, and now they're kind of floundering. And it's sad to see that. Like you want them to think that you're going to go off and earn money from that pension system and have a great life. But if you've alienated like your family over the years, right? Your families absolutely bear the brunt of this profession. We miss all kinds of family events and holidays and all these things because we're at work. If we've alienated the family over the years, when you ultimately leave, who's there for you? And hopefully they are still there for you. But if you've alienated them, they may not be. And then what do you got? You got nothing, right? And so prioritizing a better work life balance, you know, I think is important. And we kind of, I think sometimes from a generational perspective, we get down on these younger cops, and I understand what the concerns are, but from that work life balance perspective, our younger cops tend to be healthier. They are more highly prioritizing family, friends, social life, those kind of things. They're not letting the job identify, or their identity is not the job. I mean, like it's what they do, but it's not all consuming. And so they've got things going on in their lives, and we should encourage it. That is healthy. Now I get it. We still need to staff places, and so it gets a bit of a challenge, but that's good. And so, what is people's passion? What is it they're interested in? I want them to start thinking of that now while they're still working. Have a passion so that they've got something they can do when they ultimately leave. Like, what does that look like? So in my case, it's travel. I love to travel. Which is good for this job. So I get to go around the country. And it's one of the cool things. I've been to, I think, like 46 states now. And so it's so neat. I've been to all kinds of places that I never would have gone ordinarily. And like I know where good restaurants are in Wichita, Kansas, and Pueblo,
Mhm.
Colorado, and like why do I know this, right? Well, because I've had the opportunity to go to these places, so I got to go see America, like it's awesome. But even outside of that, I want to go see the world, right? And I want to do it before I'm really really too old. I mean, I we were in the Mediterranean last year on a cruise, and uh, on one of our excursions in La Spezia, there was this elderly couple that were having a really difficult time keeping up, and it was, it was not good. But like, I don't want that to be me. I want to do these things while I'm still somewhat ambulatory and can enjoy them. And oh, someday I'll go. Someday I'll go. Well, someday now you're 83 and you're barely getting around, and that's not the way to go see the world. Right. And so, it's amazing. I absolutely love traveling. And so, yeah, that's my passion.
Have you reached Brian Townsend status?
No. It sounds like it's exceeded it. I don't think I've
Where
done
you get
46 states.
the first
Close.
class upgrades or the lounges. If you haven't traveled, the
Yeah.
lounges in the airport. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's
So, I
the
mean, at this
best.
point, I've got ambassador elite status at Marriott.
There you go.
I get use my points to get family rooms all the time, stuff like that. We were in Athens before that cruise last year, and we stayed for 3 or 4 days before the cruise. But we got this incredible hotel. I used points. I didn't pay a dime for it, but like they upgraded us to a room with a butler, and it's like a 2,000 euro a night room. I didn't pay anything for, so like to have that kind of travel status that's pretty cool. Of course, I have the top status on Delta Airlines and lounge access and everything. So it makes travel a little more palatable because I like getting places, but the process of getting there can be a bit challenging. But yeah, it is nice to have some perks of it.
Perks are awesome. A couple weekends ago, I flew to Toronto just because I wanted to go to Toronto for the weekend.
Yeah, why not?
But why not, right?
Yeah, well,
But
we've done this. Like we went to a concert in Vegas, flew in, went to the concert, spent the
yeah,
night, flew out the next
yeah,
morning. All points, didn't pay for any of it,
that's
right?
awesome. Yeah,
It's great.
yeah. One note before I ask you a question, you referenced Gil Martin. We're going to put his book up because that was
Yeah,
one of the
the
first
emotional
top
survival for
books.
law enforcement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
highly recommend, especially if you're a young police officer, but really any age or any rank for that matter. But yeah, we'll put that up. But let's talk about travel some more.
Okay.
You have a. Is it okay to
Yeah.
mention you
Yeah.
have a travel blog,
I have a YouTube channel.
YouTube
Yes.
channel? Okay.
So yeah, last summer my daughter and I we started a cruising YouTube channel, which was a new thing for me. And part of like she talked to me about it for months before, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do all that, but I realized, well, I am in hotels quite a bit. I have the time. Why not? Right. And so we're doing this sort of in partnership with each other. But we do cruise reviews and excursion reviews and ship tours and so like right now I've got 12 cruises booked in the next 2 years and
Wow.
might might get a couple more in there. So it's a lot of fun. And it's growing, and it's something I can do with my daughter. So that's neat as well. So it's cool, and I'm learning so much. I'd never done video editing before or any of that kind of stuff, so it's taken me outside my comfort zone, which is one of the things I preach right in class. Right, get outside your comfort zone, learn new things, and so you don't ever want to become stagnant. So it's given me the opportunity to do that. Right, I mean to actually get out there and learn something new, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So like you can't beat that.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the name of your channel?
Went there cruising. Which
Play on
is
your last
It's a
name.
play on my last name,
Yeah,
which
we'll
is
put that up
Gruber,
on the
yeah.
screen as well. That's awesome. And I like how you started that answer when we talked about the introductions about how that work life balance,
Mhm.
and I know, we're all in different, you're semi-retired, if you
Yeah,
will, so you have more time to do
sure,
12 cruises,
sure.
but that doesn't say you can't travel. You can't, ride a bike. You can't do yoga or
Right.
whatever your passion
Well,
is,
but like
right?
for a lot of my career, I mean, I think a lot of my career, I took like 1 week vacation a year.
Okay.
And which means I was building up all kinds of time that I was not using. But how do I get that time back now? Right? You don't.
Yeah.
And so, I guess it was nice when I left to, cash all that out at Chiefs pay, and I had earned it at officer's pay. So, like that was
Mm.
cool. Until they taxed it. But uh, like, oh man, how many more things could we have done? Right. And so I don't know. I think it would have been better to use some of that time earlier in those years. I wish I had taken more vacation than I did. And so, now I guess I'm overcompensating for that and traveling a hell of a lot. But I wish I didn't wait as long as I did.
Yeah, and one thing we talk about when we talk about work-life balance is we always say, "Has the chief ever called you and says, hey, at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I noticed you have a lot of time on your, you need to take some time off." Of course not. And not that the chief could be the greatest guy in the world,
Hmm.
or girl in the world, but it's not, that's not the call you're used to at 2 in the morning,
Right.
right? You gotta sometimes remind yourself to take that time and, and,
Yeah.
and not just give that time back or
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you value where you choose to spend your time.
Yeah.
Right. And so we value our family. Is that where you choose to spend your time? And is it inconsistent? Right. I mean, everybody would say they value their family more than their job, but we spend more time with our job than we do with our family. Right. I mean, obviously you need to do that to some degree. You got to pay the bills, but like, okay, what's falling through the cracks here? And I don't have regrets per se, but I do think that I wish we'd done some things when the kids were more little. I wish we had taken them a fair number of places, but not as many as we could have. And how many family events did I miss over the years and things? Yeah, I wish I had taken some more time off.
Another good reason to have a mentor, right?
Oh
Because
yeah,
you don't
absolutely.
know, right? I mean, when we all first took this job, it's like, wait a minute, you're gonna pay me to do this job?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love
totally.
this. I will do it for free. I will be here every minute of every day.
Absolutely. It was a blast. I used to look forward to going to work. And so, like, then the home stuff isn't, I'll be home later. This is great.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, we're all important to our organizations, but they'll replace you tomorrow, and likely will not be erecting a statue to you after you depart. So, we should be dedicated. This is important business. We should work hard, right? But like, it can't be the only thing going on in your life. That's really unfortunate if that's the case.
That's the knee jerk reaction is, huh, they need me. What would they do without me? Then we'll keep going on.
They will. They will. And the organization's designed to.
Yeah.
It's designed to move on rapidly, and which is good, but it is a little impersonal. And sometimes you put in 25, 30 years at some organization, and they replace you the next day.
And they're fighting over your chair and
And they're
stay
fighting
put.
over your chair. Yeah, I remember. God, I did that to a guy on his last. He had a chair I really wanted, and on his last day, I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm walking out of his office with the chair, and that's how it is, man.
It's the reality of, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
There's a phrase we used to say to put it in perspective. Just remember, work is not your friend.
right. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Wow. Well, that
I,
was,
I don't
unless
know.
you have some follow-up,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. Any other thoughts on leadership or wellness? Or
Um, on the leadership piece, I had somebody tell me recently that their takeaway from our trilogy series was intentionality, which is interesting to me because I don't know that it's a word that I necessarily use in my regular instruction, right? But I think they're absolutely right. Good leadership doesn't just happen. You have to be really intentional about it. So, like, a lot of whether we talk about wellness or leadership or whatever, but like, if you're waiting for the convenient day to build relationships with people, or you're waiting for the convenient day to go to a good week to go to training or whatever, it'll never happen. You have to be intentional about carving those things out and making the time to do it, because there's always more work than there are people to do it. And so, if you're not intentional about making the time, those days never come. You have long since retired before that day ever arrives. So, if you want to be a better leader, then be a better leader. Do something about it, right? I mean, like, actually start working on it. Be committed to it. You want to, develop a skill, then be committed to it. Work on it. And if you're not intentional about it, you're like, oh, I'll get around to it someday when I'm not as busy. That just doesn't ever happen.
it kind of goes back to that capability doesn't equal use, right? We're
Right.
all capable of these things. We're all
Yeah.
capable of being great leaders, but
That's right.
do we actually do that? Right?
Yeah. No, I think we have an innate ability to do it, but people don't apply themselves.
People
Wow.
and I think agencies and expect this, right? Well, okay, you're a supervisor now, and I've sent you to the school. You're going to be a great leader now because I sent you to a supervisory class.
No, maybe we've increased the capability, but that doesn't mean they're going to follow through. So, yeah, it requires intentionality.
I think that's a great note to end on.
All right.
Be intentional.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
No, thank you, and we'll put your links up, and
All right.
really appreciate your time and the class as well.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Well,
Yeah.
my pleasure.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.